All right, welcome to another episode of Finding the Seams. I am Rick Bucher. That is Brendan Haywood. Man, you've never looked better.
Thank you.
I don't know that.
My
I don't
birthday,
know that
my birthday was yesterday. I think
I
that's
was
what it
just going to say, happy birthday.
was. Yeah.
It doesn't normally. What's it like to have a birthday fall on Thanksgiving?
I've had it happen a couple of times in my life, obviously. So, I'm kind of used to it. It's cool. You
Yeah.
know, birthday and Thanksgiving is no big deal. I hate it for the people that get the birthday on Christmas because people will combine their gifts.
Yes.
That's got to suck.
No,
You know what I'm
that's.
saying? This is for your birthday and Christmas. You got to hate that.
You know what? My wife's birthday is in mid-January, and she even catches a little bit of that. Because you've just loaded up on gifts, right? And so
Yep.
you're like, how far are we going to go, right? We're going to
Exactly.
throw another one out there in mid-January, but we're not going to go crazy.
Right.
Yeah. So one last thing on that. So I saw that you went out to dinner. Would you normally go out to dinner for Thanksgiving if it wasn't your birthday?
Yes. So we all, for the most part, we eat out unless it's like we have like a huge amount of family in town. But other than that, we normally just go somewhere where there's like a hotel or we go to a
Okay.
restaurant. We have our Thanksgiving that way. We don't have to worry about cleaning up the kitchen, dealing with all these leftovers that we're not going to eat anyway. So we just think it's a lot cleaner to go eat out as a family.
Yeah. We did it for the first time that I can think of. I'm sure we've done it before, but we did it this year as well. We went out to a restaurant and I was shocked. The restaurant was full. Like the number
Yeah.
of people that take that approach, I always thought it was like just because I hadn't been out on
Man, do
Thanksgiving.
you know how many people don't want to cook on Thanksgiving? Yeah, for sure.
A lot.
Yes.
All right, let's get into it. Somebody's been getting cooked as well. How about that for a transition?
Okay, I like it.
And that is not someone, but someone's. And that's both Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are getting a lot of shade about who they are now and who they were and what their legacies are. And you having played on a championship team and having been around another championship level organization, I'm just wondering what you make of the fact that guys are going after Draymond Green and Klay Thompson in particular and running them down. Brendan, I don't remember this happening this way to guys who have proven that they're champions.
Yeah, for Draymond, he's getting a lot of hate from I like to say older players,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate to see it, and I hate this mythical world that we live in where they say, what would Draymond Green be without Steph Curry and Golden State? And he would be, if he played for the Chicago Bulls, he wouldn't have even lasted in the NBA. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter. He never played for the Chicago Bulls. Probably never will.
Mm-hmm.
He's a four-time champion, defensive player of the year. He's a multiple-time All-Star, multiple-time first, second team all-defensive player. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Making up a alternate world where Draymond Green isn't good doesn't benefit anybody. And I hate to see it from older ex-players. What are we about? I hate these dudes getting on these mics, tearing down guys that are currently playing.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Draymond's persona isn't for everybody. But I hate to see the OGs not acting like OGs. As guys that have retired and played this game and understand what it's about, to see them tear down somebody that's played at a high level as Draymond Green has, it sickens me to my stomach.
Yeah.
And it's from people a lot of times that I respect, and I'm looking at them like, yo, I respect you, but I can't respect what you're doing in this space. At the end of the day, Draymond is one of the greatest defensive players in his era. Yeah, but he couldn't have guarded guys in the 90s like David Robinson and Patrick Hill. Who cares? He didn't play in the 90s. I don't care if he couldn't have guarded Akeem Olajuwon. It doesn't matter. He had to guard LaMarcus Aldridge, and he did well. He had to guard Kevin Love, and he did well. The Golden State Warriors couldn't have been the Golden State Warriors without his ability to switch on point guards and hold his own and guard guys like Kevin Love on the low block and not be taken advantage of. That switching everything small ball era was ushered in because of Draymond Green.
Yep.
Draymond Green's defense, while his offense isn't a thing of beauty, his defense was one of the reasons why every time they won a championship, they were a top 5 or top 10 defensive ball club. People forget that because Golden State shot the ball so well. But their number one asset was probably their defense, and he was a major part of that. And that's where I'm at with Draymond Green. And I hate to see people that don't like his persona. I get it, but I hate to see them tear him down in this fashion. It's low key terrible.
Well, and I get having an issue with his persona, but a lot of this is attacking what his accomplishments are.
Right.
And I hate the era that we're in now because there's one, it's endless clickbait, which is let's compare players from different eras.
That's stupid. Hey, let me go on record. Comparing guys from different eras is dumb. Simply because you play a different style, the rules are different, your training is different, your diet is different, everything is different. Like even low key, even the Michael Jordan to LeBron debate is dumb. Because if he was in this, no, like it was a totally different game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you got to compare guys in the 90s to guys in the 90s, guys in the 2000s to guys in the 2000s.
Yeah. So do you think it's different today, or is it simply that former players have platforms now where we're conscious of how they think and what they're saying about guys from a different era? Was this always going on? It's just like there wasn't a microphone in front of them, so the world didn't get the opportunity to find out that they thought the way that they do.
Oh no, this was always going on. This was definitely always going on. It was just a different era. There wasn't so many retired guys with podcasts and all types of different ways to get their opinions out there. There was always a level of, I don't know, I'll say hate or whatever you want to call it. But a lot of times older guys look back and think, oh, that guy couldn't have done this in my era. Or, man, they paying this guy what? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I appreciate the older guys. Like when I was playing, like listen, you go back and look. David Robinson was making $5 million. There had to be a time when he turned on his TV and was like, Brandon Haywood's making what? What? Because David Robinson, like his highest year, I think was like $5 million. Like,
right.
But I appreciate the fact that he helped lift the NBA up, that somebody like me could make what I made when I played.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys don't look at it like that. So like I see guys now like, Brendan, if you play in this era, man, you make this because that guy is this and that guy. I'm like, man, I don't even think like that. I'm like, yo, man, I'm appreciative of my time and I love what these young guys are doing. And I'm not pocket checking none of them. If they're making 150 million, 140 million, if role players are getting 20 million, I'm not hating on none of these dudes. But that's just me, though. I got a conscience. I can't come up here and just hate on somebody. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have a moral code. They just gonna go out there and say whatever. But I can't do that. I got to be able to sleep at night with who I am. And a lot of people hating on Draymond Green need to look themselves in the mirror.
So this is what I'm curious about is the percentage, because you're always going to have the haters. You're always going to have the people that are respectful. You're the people that are aware of they have what they have because of the people that came before them. I just always had the impression that there was the majority of players who thought the way that you did, which was there was appreciation for the ones who came before them, and that there weren't as many that were jealous or felt some kind of way about the guys from another generation and what they've accomplished. What do you think the greater percentage is? Do you think the vast majority of NBA players look at other players from a different era, whether it's the older guys looking at the new ones and saying, hey, you know what? That dude's making what? And I made what? And I'm better than he is? Or the new guys are looking back and going, you know what, he was all this and all that, but he's not as good as I was, so, and I'm not getting those accolades. Like, how many players do you think have an understanding or a healthy perspective as opposed to those that are always looking at trying to run somebody else down?
I think it goes back and forth because of the different eras and the different style of play. So, you think of the 90s, physical, hard fouls. So a lot of those guys that played in the 90s think the newer guys are soft.
Mm-hmm.
But now you look at the skill set of these guys, and when they go look at NBA's greatest games, they see that grainy footage of these power forwards pump fake, pump fake, pump faking, and shooting from 15 feet. And
Yeah.
now everybody in the league is letting it fly from three and crossing over and stepping back. They looking at them dudes like they ABC 1, 2, 3. So I think there's disrespect on both sides.
Yeah.
But because so many of the older guys have these platforms and they don't show love, now the younger dudes ain't even holding back. They really like, we ain't trying to get from you. Like, and so it's just unhealthy. And getting it back to Draymond, Draymond is truly unique because Rick, I figured out why people don't like Draymond Green. It's because guys like him normally aren't the sounding piece, or they're not the loudest person in the room on a really good team.
Yeah.
Like Ben Wallace was essential to the Detroit Pistons winning a championship.
Quiet in the mouth.
He wasn't the loudest person on the Pistons. Dennis Rodman, while he might be weird, he wasn't the person that everybody was running to talk to. He wasn't the loudest person on the Bulls. It was Michael Jordan. He was the guy talking. Michael Jordan was the guy that was yapping and telling you what it was. But then you go, and Dennis Rodman was there for two teams. For the Pistons too, when they won. He wasn't the loudest person yapping. He wasn't even doing none of that then, right?
Right.
Fast forward to Draymond Green. He's a great defensive player, actually a really good passer too. And he's the loudest person though.
Yeah.
See, normally the loudest person is Steph or Klay or even a Kevin Durant when he was there, but it's been Dre, and people don't like that. People feel like because you're a defensive player, you're getting carried by the other guys, so you need to get in line. You need to have the humbleness of a Ben Wallace, of a Dikembe Mutombo. Like those guys weren't really talkers, even though they were essential to their team, and that's why people don't like Dre.
But I think that's what people.
Hold on one second. And then they like the loud guys to be offensive. Draymond Green, not the best shooter in the world, not the best post-up player in the world, not the best individual offensive skills. But he's essential to that team. But because he's not an offensive player, they want him to pipe down. And people act like Steph and Klay and Kevin Durant were big bro, and that he's hiding behind him. That's how they feel. And that's why they talk about him the way they do.
This is what kills me is that if there are NBA players that think that way, I question their understanding of the game, because what Draymond does he's not just loud. He orchestrated them defensively. He orchestrated them offensively. I mean, he was the leading, led them, not that assists or stats or everything, but he was their leading playmaker for most of the last 10 years since he's been there. And maybe I have particular insight because I was the sideline reporter for the Warriors the first 2 years that he was there. And I saw or heard, I was like in those huddles and in the locker room and around that team all the time. Like, it wasn't just bravado. It wasn't just strut. Like, his intelligence and understanding of how they had to play and getting everybody organized was a vital part of that team. And it took certain skills for him to be able to do that. I mean, he was uniquely a triple-double guy at Michigan State when triple-doubles weren't a thing in college basketball. He'd already had that wide variety of ability. So that's what I struggle with. It's like, yeah, you know what? He's different than what, Kenyon Martin went up against during his era, or maybe Paul Pierce played against. But you can't recognize and appreciate the things that he brought to the game and his intelligence and like the elements that made him special as a player. That's what disappoints me. Like, don't define him by what you played against. Like, appreciate what he's doing as a basketball player. He's not just a loud guy. Like, he's got a lot of talent. It's just a little bit different than maybe what they went up against.
And that's the problem. Not the problem, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. We need more guys that play talking about what Draymond really means. Because I will say this, Rick, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame, and in 20 years, when I'm trying to explain to my daughter, who would be she's 5 now, she'll be 25. When I'm trying to explain to her why Draymond Green is a Hall of Famer, it's going to be a tough conversation.
Because you don't have like statistics and like highlights.
Exactly. I'm not going to have the statistics that all the other defensive players that go into the Hall of Fame. Like when my daughter is 25, she says, "Daddy, why is Dennis Rodman in the Hall of Fame?" And she goes and looks up his numbers. Oh, yeah, he was a great defensive player, and he led the NBA in rebounding this many times. Why is Dwight Howard in there? He had this many blocks, led the league in rebounding this many times. Same thing for Mutombo, Ben Wallace, Alonzo, all these defensive guys. They're big-time defensive rebounders. They're big-time shot blockers. Why is Gary Payton in there? You're going to see all the steals. But when you go to Draymond Green, I'm going to have to talk to her about plus-minus. And that's going to be a hard conversation. And so think about it, because if you just look at Draymond's stats, it's the Hall of Fame. Trying to explain to somebody that didn't watch him play that he's a Hall of Famer is going to be because he doesn't have the most rebounds. He doesn't have the most steals. He's not a big time scorer. And so it's going to be one of those situations where I'm like, baby girl, you just had to be there. It was the time you just had to be there. And now I feel old because that's what older players and older NBA fans were telling me when we were having conversations about Bill Russell. That he's one of the best of all time. And we were like, yo, he never even averaged over 25 or something like. And they'd be like, yo, you just had to be there. You young. You just had to be there. Now I understand. And so that's where Draymond comes in. And that's why I'm a little bit disappointed that so many guys aren't having the conversation that we're having of this guy was essential to Golden State. His defense was key. The way that he passed the ball on the second side of that offense was also essential. And his smarts and his toughness and that edge that he gave them really helped Golden State. Golden State couldn't have been Golden State without Draymond Green. I'm not saying that he was more important than Steph or Klay, but they couldn't have been that if they had, let's just say, some other if David Lee would have continued to start, no shade to David Lee, they would have not have been what they were. They wouldn't have been.
Agreed. I would say this, and this is probably controversial. Some people are going to think it's controversial. I think if you take any one of those guys away, they're not the same championship team.
Agreed. All of them had a different role. Steph,
all of them had different roles. They fit together. They like, even personality-wise, it was perfect. The combination, they were a perfect combination in every way, and it's what has allowed them to have this sustained success. What I find striking, so Draymond has gotten a lot of it, but we see Klay Thompson getting it too. Now, if it was just Ja Morant, fine, but there was also Miami Heat two-way player came at him and had something to say, and I think it was Miami Heat. But Klay has gotten it from some other people as well. And were you going to argue with Klay Thompson's skills? And while I know that he has a quiet confidence bordering on arrogance as well, that probably when you're on the floor with him, you can feel, even though maybe the fans aren't hearing comments made by him. I still, that's another example of a guy with 4 rings who's getting dragged now because he had 2 what should have been career-ending injuries, and he's not the same player at 35. Well, who the hell is?
You got to understand that you have to be respectful of the older legends, and Klay Thompson's going to be a legendary player for the shots he's hit. Game 6 Klay, the 3-point accuracy, the 60-point games. We know he's going to the Hall of Fame, right? And for younger guys, you have to be respectful because one day you will be older and you will want these young guys to respect you. I'll never forget, I was in Cleveland. It's my last year. I'm playing with Shawn Marion, obviously the great Shawn Marion. I think he should be a Hall of Famer too. But Shawn Marion's been he was a multiple-time All-Star, NBA champion, had some really good years in Dallas and Phoenix. But in Cleveland, he was coming off the bench. And I remember one game, he went into the game, and Sean kind of has a different type of shot. And he shot a shot from the corner and it airballed. And I looked over there, and Tristan Thompson, a couple of young guys were laughing. They were cutting up. And I leaned back and I was like, yo, man, y'all chill out, man. Y'all respect that, man. And they were like, nah, come on, B. Wood. I said, no. Y'all respect that, man. I said, yo, in his heyday, he was 10 times better than you ever was. I said, you may never get to that level.
Wow.
I was like, so what you need to do is, respect him now, because one day you will be him and you will want a young guy to respect you.
Yeah.
And everybody just kind of like, all right, cool. Like, they probably thought I was the old angry guy on the bench, but it was just like, yo, you're not going to clown nobody that's been an all-star and an NBA champion and you ain't got no stripes. Shut up.
Yep.
Shut up. You ain't done nothing. I understand he's older now. He's not the same version, but it ain't time to clown, especially when you ain't done nothing. Right. And so that's sometimes where some of these younger guys got to understand is like, hey, got to show respect to the old guard, because one day you will be older and you will want these young dogs to respect you. You will be in this situation. Yep. Life comes at you fast.
Yep. No, it's true. Myron Gardner was the player on a two-way with the Miami Heat. And to give the full perspective, because this is like most people wouldn't have seen it, wouldn't have associated with Klay, but I knowing Klay, I totally see him doing this. He apparently said to the Heat bench at one point, you guys can't sit at my table. Here's the thing. He's right. There's nobody on the Miami Heat roster right now, certainly not on the bench, that has done anything close to what Klay Thompson has had. So if there's a back and forth and he's got that trash talk, you can say a lot of things. You can't say that Klay Thompson is not a player.
But this is another part of that story, and this is what I love. And this is what I love about this guy. Caron Butler, coach on the Miami Heat, took young fella over to Klay Thompson at the end of the game and had them talk it out. Because Caron gets it. Like, yo, dog, like, hey, you don't need to talk to a legend like that. Relax. Especially when you ain't done nothing. Relax. Mm-hmm. So I love that. That's who Caron Butler is at his core. I love that about CB. And so that just wraps that whole story up.
Here's the one thing that I think is why we're seeing this in particular, outside of the fact that there's just more microphones out there, there's more platforms, we're exposed to everything and anything anybody says about anybody. And so we become aware of it. And if it's, a little bit scandalous, then it's going to get more attention, is the fact that Klay Thompson and Draymond are not the same players that they were as champions, but they still are carrying themselves that way. Yeah. And they're in situations where they're not having the same success. And I think that kind of opens it up, not to say that it's right, but it opens it up to guys who may not have experienced their greatness, or just kind of the climate that we're in. Like, everybody thinks they can bag on anybody else.
But and here's the one thing too: when you in that competitive space, even if a guy is a Hall of Famer, you don't want him talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, I was probably, where was I at? Was I in DC or Dallas? I can't remember. But this is when Antoine Walker was he wasn't playing, but he was in Minnesota. And something happened, and he chirped something at me. I don't even remember. And and I got the ultimate respect for who Antoine Walker, but it was just like disrespectful at the time. I look back like, yo, old school, sit down. You ain't even gonna take your warm up off today, right? Like, and it was just like, and then I looked at it, and I went back and apologized. Like, man, my bad, dog, man. You just kind of caught me with one, like, cause I could tell it hurt him. He was just bored over there, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? But when you in that competitive space, you got your macho, your machismo going, you playing, and then you hear somebody yell something wild at you. In that moment, you don't care that it's a Hall of Famer. So I have been the younger player that has disrespected an older guy, but I did go back and be like, man, my bad, man. I should have let that ride, but you caught me with a good one. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I hear it. All right. We've talked a lot about the Houston Rockets and the absence of Fred VanVleet and the expectations because they have Kevin Durant. We saw them play the other day against the Golden State Warriors, and Reed Sheppard, second-year guard, had a game. I believe it was 31 points. I meant to double check that, but had a huge game, and obviously is playing in the point guard position. Kevin Durant was not in that game, so that's a consideration. But I wonder, as you've watched Reed and what he's done and how they've used him, is he good enough at that position to fill at least somewhat the absence or give them a little bit more of what we both agreed they're missing, as far as if you're having Amen Thompson as the point guard, that's really not going to get you there. Does having Reed Sheppard there make any difference to you at all?
Yes, because offensively you have to guard him differently than you guard Thompson.
Okay.
Reed Sheppard can shoot the leather off the ball. Don't get it
Yes, he
twisted.
can.
Like I did one of his games last year. He was fresh out the G League, came up, bop, knocking down shots with confidence in OKC, right?
And
So,
at all three levels.
yeah, yeah. And if you talk to even watching him at Kentucky, he could pass the ball better than what people thought. He was shooting the leather off the ball at Kentucky, and if you ask any of the coaches, they'll tell you he was the hardest worker. He was the hardest worker on the team. People think of him as just a shooter, but he can put the ball down on the floor. He can get it in the pick and roll. He can shoot, like you said, he can shoot from anywhere. He's not just three. He can shoot the mid-range shot. He can shoot the long ball. The biggest thing for him is, hey, don't be a defensive liability.
Yes.
Hey, listen, don't be the guy that teams can pick on. That's it. If he's the guy that they can pick on,
yeah.
Like I talk about this all the time because playoff basketball has been the same for a long period of time, and it's so different in the regular season. In the postseason, if they figure out you can't defend,
right,
they're going to put you in every action and run you off the court. And if Reed Sheppard figures out that he can be just a scrappy defender, we're not asking you to lock down the best guys, but just don't be the guy that they just looking to pick on. Right. And he'll have a positive effect because if he's in the strong side corner, better not come off of him.
Yep.
If he comes off a pick and roll, the big better be up high because he's going to let it fly. And so that he can definitely help this team because of his shooting ability and the fact that he can handle it as well.
So this is for the guy that I ran into at Skyline Chili in Cincinnati.
Who? Skyline Chili? What are you? We got to talk about your eating habits. Skyline Chili?
No. I'm usually very good. When I'm at home, that's my cheat.
Okay.
That's my cheat as I go to Skyline because I'm from Cincinnati originally, right? But there's a guy like who walks in and sees me waiting for my order, my takeout, and I don't even see him. I just hear a voice go, "Do you know Rick Bucher?" And I turn and I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You're Rick Bucher." I go, "Yeah." So we ended up chatting.
That's a really weird way to ask if you're Rick Bucher. Do you know Rick Bucher?
Yes,
right here.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I let it go.
Wait, what?
The number of weird exchanges I've had being sort of a semi-personality celebrity. Like I have people.
Man, you ain't semi, man. Everybody know you, man. You famous. You've been on TV. You on the sidelines. You've been on major sports talk shows. Come on now, don't sell yourself short. Your boy gonna hype you up. If I ain't gonna do nothing else, anything else, I'm gonna hype you up.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, we had a conversation for like 10 minutes, and one of the things he asked me was like about Houston, and did I think Reed Sheppard could be that guy? And I was dismissive of it. This was prior to what he did for the last week. And it was largely because of what you said in terms of, I just don't know if he can defend his position. And for where we expect the Rockets to go, which is like, people talking about them possibly going to the conference finals, like being that type of team. When I look at Denver and OKC, I don't know if Houston's good enough to get past one of those two. All right. So, but this is the thing about Reed that has kind of opened my eyes, which is if you play for Ime Udoka and he uses you the way Ime Udoka is using Reed Sheppard right now, he's got to be showing some toughness and some things because Udoka's not going to play you if you don't at least give an effort at the defensive end, right? And this is what I wanted you to answer because I always have this with whether it's Steph Curry or it's Steve Nash or it's certain guys that you look at and you go individually, not very good defenders. You're asking them to go one-on-one, not very good. My thing always is, but give me the effort. Like,
Yeah.
if you get beat, don't stay beat. V back and try to put a body on a big. Try to stay involved and do something. And if you do that, then I consider you good enough to get me where I need to go, even if though you're an individually bad defender. And there's too many. I run into too many, either media or fans or whatever, who like look at those guys and go, "Oh, he's terrible. Like he can't do anything." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, most guys. There's a lot of guys who aren't good individual defenders, but if you still try to stay within the team concept and you give me an effort at that end, then I'm not going to say you're a terrible defender. The terrible defender to me is the one who gets beat and then he's like, Luka at times, right? He gets beaten and he's done. Like that to me is a bad defender.
Yeah, exactly. So you can be not the most physically imposing defender in the world. There's two things that make, I'll say three things. There's three things that make you a bad defender. First and foremost, on the perimeter, especially in today's game, if you get beat off the first dribble. If you get beat off the first dribble, guys are too quick and they're getting down the lane. If you get beat off the first dribble consistently, they're going to get open threes in the corner, top of the key. You can't get beat off the first dribble. Like I said, I play with guys and I'm like, listen, if you can make him take that second dribble, I'm there. If he beat you off the first dribble,
right,
I might not be able to help you.
Right.
But if you make him take two dribbles, I will be there.
But that's a matter of defensively. That's not just speed. That's playing an angle. That's playing an angle and understanding spacing, right? That trying to force that guy. And I think, not to go on, it's also being proactive, making him react to you.
Well, no, it's a lot of different things depending on the player. Like, if he caught the ball, did he swipe through and beat you on a swipe through? You're going to kill the defense. Is he heavy? Is he a heavy right hand player? If he is, that means we're forcing him left. So jump on his right hand, and your help is going to be on the left hand side. Mm-hmm. Like, is he a dynamic scorer? Make sure you force him over the screen because your help is going to be there, and we're going to trap and we're going to get it out of his hands. Like, there's so many different things, but the biggest thing is don't get beat off the first move, like just one dribble. If he just has and he's gone,
yeah,
we're cool.
There's not a whole lot you can do. Yeah.
The second part is on the weak side, and this happens for a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that they're not scoring, they snoring. And you can't be that type of defender. On the weak side, can you be where you're supposed to be? And that's one thing that Steph has gotten a lot of steals. Hey, he's not going to guard the best point guard, but he'll be at the nail. He'll be at the elbow. He understands how to come over and cross the midline for defense, things of that nature. Yeah. You have to be where you're supposed to be within the team scheme. Last but not least, and you made this point, and I tell you it's the truth. If you do get beat, give effort to get back into play. Because if you give effort, sometimes things can be wrong, but you'll be surprised that the effort will make you right. You'll get beat on the first dribble, but you'll keep hustling into play, and eventually you might end up getting a steal because you didn't just turn around and look and stand on the perimeter like Houston James Harden. Like that, those are the three things that you need to have. If you're not an elite defender, don't get beat off the first dribble. Continue to hustle. Understand your team schemes and be a good help defender.
All right, let's get to the last topic of the day, and that is the Toronto Raptors. I don't know how much you've watched them. It kind of surprised me. I looked up. I'm like, they're 14-5. They're second. And look, you can come out of the gate and you're 8-2 or whatever, but this is where we get into the 20-25 game range where, okay, maybe you're showing me something. And so I hadn't been watching them, I'll be honest. And I went back and I watched a couple of their games and I'm like, they're not a bad team. And I look at their starting lineup with Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl, who you as a big man can tell me, but I think he's vastly underrated in what he does as a big in today's game. I looked at them and I'm like, I kind of like them. Like, I don't know what they are as a playoff team, but I have no reason to believe that they're not going to be a playoff team this year.
Well, first and foremost, they have two guys that have been All Stars before. Brandon Ingram has been an All Star. Scottie Barnes has been an All Star.
Yep.
They have three guys that are averaging between like 19 and let's say 21 and a half, 22 points per game when you talk about RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, and Brandon
Yep.
Ingram. You have somebody, Emmanuel Quickly, who can. He's always scoring. Has always been his calling card ever since Kentucky. He can heat up at any time. He's 15, 16 points per game.
Yep.
Then you talk about Jakob Poeltl, just a great vet, understands where to be. About 10 points, 8 rebounds a night. Not flashy, but he gonna give you what you need. And when the game slows down, they can play through BI in the mid post because that's where BI does what he does. He's a really good mid post individual scorer. So they do have the complementary pieces to do well. You know, even a guy like Scottie Barnes shooting 39% from three. Now he's not taking a lot of threes. He's only taking like 3 a game.
Right.
But last year he was taking 4 a game and shooting 27% from three. So you got to understand, even a guy like Scottie Barnes, there's some growth there. And so this team in the East, the way it is now, yeah, they can make the play. This definitely can make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like why not? Obviously, the Pacers aren't going to be good this year. Boston's cool, but they're not going to be the same Boston without Jason Tatum. You know, there's spots to be had. Like I just called the Atlanta Hawks game. They got their doors blown off by the Washington Wizards. Wizards had 1 win before that game, so it's just like in the East.
Yeah.
The East isn't like the West. In the West, you got 2 dogs, and you know what they about, and then you got a couple other teams that are really, really good. In the East, it's kind of soft. So a team like Toronto that has two young All-Stars, they could definitely be there in the end.
I think what surprised me is the chemistry of the team. Like for the last couple of years, I haven't thought that they're very well coached, just because I didn't think that they played a very disciplined style of game. But the turnovers, they don't turn the ball over. They defend at a high level. And maybe most impressive, and this speaks to what you said, you referenced with Scottie Barnes, like everybody looks comfortable in their role and they look like they have a hierarchy. Like Brandon Ingram is our go-to guy. Emmanuel Quickly is probably our second guy. And Scottie Barnes has been willing to fill in and like be more of a dirty work guy, and I'm going to take my opportunities, but I'm not going to dominate the ball, which for the way he was advertised and the way he was utilized the last couple of years, to me, that speaks a lot to the character of Scottie Barnes, that he wants to win more than he wants to, like, I got to be a star and I got to have the ball in my hands.
But guess what?
I was impressed.
When you go look at what Scottie Barnes was with that Mount Bird team in high school, that's what he was doing. Of course, he was like nobody stood out because that team was loaded, but that's what he did. When I watched Scottie Barnes at FSU, I didn't turn on the TV and think, "Oh my goodness, this guy is a great individual scorer." I was like, "Nah, he's a dog. He does a little bit of everything."
Yeah,
and he was kind of miscast as the team's go-to guy. Scottie Barnes doesn't have go-to guy moves.
Yep.
Brandon Ingram does, and I think Scottie Barnes recognized that. Like, all right. We can win games. B.I. can be the guy that gets the ball down the stretch, but I'm out in transition. I'm rebounding. I'm cutting. I'm defending. I'm getting the offensive boards. And I'm so active, I'm still getting 19 points a game. And this guy's eating as well. I think he's just embraced his role. Like, everybody's not going to be a go-to scorer. Everybody doesn't have go-to scorer moves. B.I. has those moves. Scottie Barnes is still developing his. Why not let the guy who's better at it do that down the stretch of close ball games?
Yeah. Were you ever on a team that like felt like it was an underachieving team, and then guys kind of figured out like we need to make sacrifices, or we need to understand what our hierarchy is and recognize what everybody does best and allow that to happen? Because I think that at the heart of it is really the difference maker when you have teams that either overachieve or underachieve based on their talent.
I think that's just simply I just think simply that that's what the good teams do. They figure out what the hierarchy is. Part of our problem in DC was we didn't always have the hierarchy figured out. We understood that Gil was the guy, but then Karan was shooting the ball, and then you had Antoine, and then our young guys would come off the bench, and then, Nick Young might come in the game and just shoot whatever shot. Like there wasn't discipline there, and so like the good teams do have a hierarchy. And in Dallas, Rick Carlisle didn't care who you was. I remember Rick talking to Karan Butler. He said, "Hey man, those shots he said in front of the team, those shots that you took in DC in the fourth quarter, we don't need you shooting those here. And if you take first side jumpers or you shoot the ball before Dirk and Jay Terry get it, you will come sit down beside me." And Karan was an all-star. He had been an all-star. So every good team, there's a hierarchy. Every good team, and on every good team, when that hierarchy is put in place, there's other guys that have to sacrifice and get in line. Karan Butler was good enough to shoot the ball in the fourth quarter on the first side if he wanted to, but not on this team. That's not the way this team works.
Right.
That's the key. Good teams understand, okay, this guy has to get the ball here. I need you to sacrifice for this to work, and then we're going to get it to you on the weak side, and you have to be ready and not pouting, and that's how we're going to make this work. That's what the good teams do. The bad teams, they jack up shots, there's no hierarchy, and it's first come, first serve.
How much does that come from the coach, and how much does that come from the locker room or the leaders in the locker room establishing that? Because I could see, like, if Scottie Barnes is making that sacrifice and he's leading the way in that locker room, it does a lot for a coach who, let's be honest, I mean, he's never accomplished anything in the NBA to kind of have that gravitas to say, hey guys, this is the way we have to play in order to win.
Yeah, first it comes from the coaching staff. Secondly, it comes from your best player, and then the locker room. And then your best player and then the guys that they're telling you need to sacrifice for got to be like that. I think it's easy for Scottie Barnes to sacrifice because he sees Brandon Ingram knocking down those mid-range shots.
Yeah.
And at some point, you can lie to you can lie to anybody, but you can't lie to yourself. Like, yeah, he might be better than me at that aspect of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you got to be true with yourself.
Oh, I had this conversation with a player once, and I said, so like, he mentioned that he wasn't the leading scorer on his team, and I go, well, how did that happen? He goes, because I looked over and this other dude was just lighting it up. He goes, I thought I was a go-to scorer, and then I met this cat, and he's like, oh, I guess I'm not a go-to scorer. That's a go-to scorer.
As a player, you know it. And sometimes you might try to lie to yourself, you might try to trick yourself, but sometimes you're like, yeah, he better than me. He better than me. He better than me. I know.
Hey, you know what's better? Your microphone.
Yeah.
And your framing. Oh.
Yeah. Hey man, I'm just trying to step up to your level, man.
Chef's kiss, brother. I appreciate it. I'm glad you had a great holiday. All of you out there, hope you had a great holiday. Again, happy birthday, Brendan. It looked like it was very successful and very celebratory. And thanks again for doing this with me. And we will do it again.
I'm glad to see you be watching my Instagram stories too, man.
I'm an avid follower, bro.
Yeah, man. You see my wife singing "Happy Birthday" to me and everything. The only weird moment was
calling you daddy.
She was trying to sing it from like my daughter's point of view. She was like, "Happy birthday, daddy."
Yeah,
I was like, hey.
I know.
I'm like, hey, calling me daddy in front of the family is crazy.
In front of the family, out in public, in a restaurant,
with my mom right over there. Yo, that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's get out of here.
For those of you who would like to catch an awkward moment, check out Brendan's Instagram because it's right there.
Hey man, I'm just saying. I was like, I caught the whole happy birthday. And I was with happy birthday, daddy. I looked around, hey, what you doing, man? You messing this up for me.
Oh, so good. So good. All right, my friend, we will do it again next week.
All right, man.